of the City of Palm Springs, California, we urge all residents to join us in celebrating the tremendous accomplishments of our unique and wonderful Latino community and recognize September 15th through October 15th, 2020 to be National Hispanic Heritage Month. And we also have the proclamation in Spanish as well. So we're very lucky to be able to now have things translated easily and posted on multiple parts of our website and Facebook page in Spanish too. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Garner. So next we have certificates of recognition for students who did kayaking at the Salton Sea, and Mayor Pro Tem Holstidge will be presenting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I would like to call up 3 amazing local high school students and leaders, Layton Jones and her brother Cloy, who are raised right here in Palm Springs, and their friend Evalyn Garcia from Thermal, who kayaked approximately 18 miles across the Salton Sea a couple of weekends ago to raise awareness about how its shores have been receding for nearly 2 decades, creating a toxic environmental crisis that we must all join together to solve before it becomes even worse. I think their kayak trip took 7 hours or something like that, which is something I could not do, so we applaud you. On behalf of the residents of Palm Springs, we applaud your efforts on your incredible journey and wish you great success in your mission to educate local students, residents, state and federal and city lawmakers about the plight of the Salton Sea so that action can finally be taken for yours and mine and all future generations. Please come up and accept your certificates from the City of Palm Springs. We'll take a photo, and then if one of you would like to say a few words about your journey in the Salton Sea, that would be great. And we'd love to hear how you came up with this idea to raise awareness about the sea and what your future plans are to take action. And we look forward to working with you in partnership to solve this environmental crisis that we all face. So thank you very much for all of your efforts. Please come up.
Should I take off my mask? Okay. Hi, my name is Layton Jones. I am here today with my friend Evalyn Garcia and my brother Cloy Jones. This began my freshman year while I was an intern at Congressman Raul Ruiz's office. His team gave me the task of reading and categorizing all the articles in the past 10 years regarding the Salton Sea. I became extremely interested and dedicated many hours to the project. It struck me that most of the young people in the Coachella Valley don't know much about the Salton Sea. One of my main goals is to get a lesson plan for the local high school and middle schools that teaches the history and parameters of the sea. But when our world was faced with COVID-19, I, like many others, was stuck at home, although I wanted to continue my work on the Salton Sea. I thought, people who do crazy things typically get the most attention. So I figured a way to bring attention to the sea would actually be making a crazy trip across the Salton Sea by kayak. This is an East Valley, West Valley project because it encompasses our entire Coachella Valley. It is our local issue. It is also the biggest body of water in California and, in my opinion, such a beautiful place. Jackie Lopez, who has worked tirelessly to help us, introduced me to Evalyn, who has a background in studying the air quality of the area and also lives near the sea. On behalf of all three of us, I'd like to thank the City of Palm Springs for this recognition. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for your advocacy. Next, we'll turn it over to our city clerk to give us an election update. Mr. Mejia.
Mr. Mayor, and City Council, if I could bring up the slides, please. I'll be giving you a presentation on Vote Palm Springs. We have the upcoming presidential and municipal election on November 3rd. We do have two drop-off locations for your vote-by-mail ballots. The first one is at the Palm Springs City Hall in the city clerk's office. We've actually set up the box right at the front door, so you don't need to come in too far. You can drop the ballot right in the box. They are picked up twice a week and taken directly to the ROV's office, the Registrar of Voters office in Riverside. And the second location is Demuth Community Center. That location is actually staffed by someone from the Riverside County Registrar of Voters office. And you can drop off your ballots there Monday through Friday from 10 to 3, and at City Hall Monday through Thursday from 8 to 6. If you're interested in early voting, there are 4 locations. The closest is the Palm Desert Westfield Mall. That will be October 23rd to the 25th from 10 to 4 p.m. For voting access centers, this is for people who are interested in voting in person. Those will be, the locations will be available from October 31st to October 2nd from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and on Election Day, November 3rd from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And those locations are Demuth Community Center, the James O. Jesse Desert Highland Unity Center, and the Palm Springs Public Library. If you are not registered to vote, you should do so, and the last day to do so in the regular manner is October 19th. However, if you do miss that deadline, you can do same-day voter registration by going to any of the voting access centers. And that's important because they have live connectivity to the voter registration database, and they'll be able to register you right away, and it will not be a provisional ballot. It will be a real ballot, counted right away. And then I do want to clarify that the first day that the vote-by-mail ballots were issued was October 5th, and that continues each day until all 1.4 million ballots are issued. Rebecca Spencer, Riverside County Registrar of Voters, advised that the final batch of ballots will be mailed tomorrow. And lastly, I want to encourage everyone to seek election information from trusted sources such as election officials' websites and their official social media accounts. Please visit voteinfo.net for the Riverside County Registrar of Voters website and votepalmsprings.com for the City of Palm Springs election information. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for that important update. Our next update is on COVID-19, and our Emergency Management Coordinator, Danny Selms, will join us.
Good afternoon again. So everybody's question is about the tier status and what that change is going to be. So this is a picture of where we are right now. The state updates this every Tuesday. So we can speculate all we want, but we won't know until Tuesday. What we do know is last week was a bad week across the state. In Riverside, you can see it was the worst week that we'd had in 5 weeks across the county. So the last bar is this week. We're about a third of where we were last week. So while the numbers are still trending worse than they were the previous several weeks, if they stay the course, we're probably going to stay in the red tier. So you can see the same thing for Palm Springs. Palm Springs last week was the worst week that we'd had since the middle of August. But this week we've only had 13 cases compared to 52 last week. So we were trending very bad last week. Don't know what that cause was. It's because it was across the state, not just in the counties that opened, but it's improving. So last week across the valley, we had 332 cases in a week. Right now, we're at 85. You can see those percentages are much lower than they were last week, which were at 5% and 7%, which is still below the state metric, but when several small cities have really bad weeks, it adds up. So we're doing better than we were last week, and I can only speculate that we're probably going to stay in the red tier. The good thing is, if we have a good week this week, then we're going to stay. You need 2 bad weeks in a row to move backwards a tier. That's all I have.
So of the areas in the county, currently Coachella Valley seems to have the highest positivity rate? Is that, I think we're a little over 12% last week.
So we had a very bad week in the valley last week, yes. I think it was 11%. But yeah, the valley had a very bad week last week.
Yeah. So just a reminder for everyone how important it is to social distance, wear your masks, wash your hands. Gatherings of people from different households are still not allowed. And if we all follow the rules, we're going to see the numbers decrease. And that's where we all want to go. So thank you for that. And that'll lead us into our next thing, which is COVID testing. So we have free COVID testing at the convention center next week. You can make an appointment. This will be on the home page of the website through the county. It's Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Mondays starts at 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., Tuesdays 11 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Wednesdays 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. 300 people a day can get tested. It's drive up by appointment. It's quick. It's much less invasive than the tests that we first had. And you should get tested if you've been with any other people, whether you're symptomatic or not. And the metrics the state is looking at is how many people are getting tested, and they're looking at the positivity rate. And so it's important that everyone gets tested. That's how we're going to have true numbers and hopefully be able to open more. So really want to encourage you to do that. And of course, you want to know if you are positive so you can seek medical assistance, and also know that you need to isolate yourself and not risk getting anyone else sick. So please take advantage of this free testing. If those are full, we'll be able to continue this. And the Chamber of Commerce and the Hospitality Association have really stepped up with the Palm Springs Bureau of Tourism to get this to happen, because we want people who are working in essential open businesses to be able to get tested. And it's really hard if you have to go down to India or another city to get tested, but this will allow people to get tested during the day. And I know a lot of the businesses are encouraging their workers and letting them take the time to make appointments and get tested. So we really want to encourage testing. Next item is an update on rental assistance. Our Economic Development Director, Jay Verada, please.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
Mayor Pro Tem, council members. We wanted to make sure that the residents of Palm Springs were aware of this rental assistance program provided by United Way and Lift to Rise. They've combined to call themselves United Lift. The program offers one-time rental assistance, in the amount of $3,500 per household, and households would not be able to utilize this program twice. And it's important to keep in mind that these funds would be paid to a household's landlord. And so be sure to communicate with the landlord if you do intend to utilize this program in any way. Telephone assistance from United Lift is available in English and Spanish. The online application is also available in Spanish. And all this information is available on the United Lift website, which is www.unitedlift.org. www.unitedlift.org. So please be sure to visit that if you know of anyone who may be in need, or if you yourself are in need. And you can also find this information on the city's website just by searching United Lift.
Great. Thank you very much. Next, we will have a U.S. Census update. Denise Goolsby, who's the manager of our Office of Neighborhoods.
Good evening, Mayor Kors, Pro Tem Holstage, and City Council. I bet you thought you'd seen the last of me 2 weeks ago, right? But, but the rolling census date continues. For now, the deadline has been moved back to October 31st, so that means the census enumerators are out on the ground, going door to door, trying to get everybody else counted, and that people can still fill out their census until October 31st, until we hear otherwise. Census rates, I'll go over quickly. National, 99.8% has already been counted. California, 99.9%. Riverside County, the first two includes a non-response follow-up by the census takers, like I talked about last time. Some good news, Riverside County is 67%. They're up 3.5% over 2010. And good news for us in the city, we are one of only 3 cities that have improved on our numbers from 2010, and we're in second place on that, so that's a little bit of positive news. We're up 2% over what we did in 2010. A couple of census tract success stories. One of our charges has been to really focus on the undercounted and low response rates neighborhoods. So I'm going to give you just a quick rundown. Census Tract 44605 neighborhoods include Desert, Highland, Gateway Estates, Four Seasons, Mountain Gate, Rocket Club West, and Upper West Side. Had the census lowest self-response score in 2010 census. 26% of the households did not respond. This year, their rate's at 4.8% over the 2010 census. And another neighborhood that was one of the lower census response rates with Araby Cove, Araby Commons, and Andreas Hills and Los Compadres, sections of those, their rate is up 4.2% over the 2010 census. So that's some success on those low response. And other of the low response neighborhoods we've also gone up in. And last but not least, just wanted to give a shout out to Bristow and Midtown and Census Tract 9414. They were a low response score. They had 24.4% of households did not respond in 2010, but this year they're up, this decade they're up 6.1% over 2010, and that's actually the highest of all of our 19 census tracts in the city. That's the highest rate that's gone up so far. So shout out to everybody for that, and go to our website and be counted. So thank you, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Great. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you for your work, and thank you to Mayor Pro Tem Holstage and Councilmember Garner for being liaisons on the census and all the work you've both done on this. I think our last presentation is, so we did find out yesterday about the new Southwest service, which is going to be year-round service to our city, which I know the airport and others have been working on for several years. And the cities they'll be flying to are once a day to Denver, twice a day to Oakland, and 3 daily flights to Phoenix, of course, connecting not just throughout the country, but flights to Mexico through Phoenix now as well, Puerto Vallarta and Cabo, I believe. So very exciting opportunity for our residents to have a new airline. Their rates are lower than the other airlines on those routes, so we're hoping to see some competition now and lower rates, which is a great benefit, of course, for our residents, and it's great for people who want to come visit us to have this coming, and that it's year-round service is a real plus. And it starts November 15th, and my understanding is next week you'll be able to buy tickets. So with that, we're just taking a short break for the council to go to our offices, just to be extra cautious on COVID. So we will be back in about 2 minutes. So thank you, everyone. Continue. The next item is acceptance of the agenda. The City Council will discuss the order of the agenda, may amend the order, add urgency items, note abstentions or no votes on consent calendar items, or request consent calendar items be removed for separate discussion. I'd like to entertain a motion for acceptance of the agenda. Are there any items any council member would like removed from the consent calendar for separate discussion or vote? I would like to pull 1D.
Is that 1D as in dog?
1D as in dog. Get a motion to accept the agenda, with the exception of 1D.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Garner, second by Councilmember Middleton.
Councilmember Garner.
Yes.
Councilmember Middleton.
Aye.
Councilmember Woods.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Holstedge.
Yes.
Mayor Kors.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. City Attorney Ballinger, will you please provide a report on the closed session?
Yes, Mayor and members of the council, members of the public, the City Council met in closed session earlier this afternoon to discuss the items that are listed on the agenda, and there was no reportable action.
Thank you. The next item is public testimony on non-public hearing agenda items only. This time has been set aside for members of the public to address the City Council on those items. 2 minutes will be assigned to each speaker. You have to please begin your time by telling us what agenda item or items you're speaking on. Please note that testimony for public hearings will be taken at the time of the public hearing, and general public comment for subjects not on the agenda will be taken later in the evening. Tonight, the City Clerk will be contacting speakers via telephone. City Clerk, please begin.
Kathy Warmick, you're live with the Palm Springs City Council, and you have 2 minutes to provide your comments.
Mayor Kors and members of the council, I'm commenting today on 5A, officially as the chair of the General Plan Steering Committee and also the Planning Commission. I wanted to let you know that we've been working on this for a month, looking forward to
Press star 6 to mute or unmute yourself.
And
Kathy?
if you have any.
Kathy? Mr. Mayor, I'm going to reattempt to call Kathy. There was some issue.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I heard the beeping.
Here.
Okay, if you want to kind of begin again.
Okay. Hi, I'm Kathy Wermick. I live at 699 Wilson Lane, and I'm testifying on 5A, which is the general plan steering, or the general plan update on visions and priorities. I have chaired both the general plan update steering committee and also the planning commission. We're very pleased to send these documents to you for comments. I will be available by phone if you have any questions. On the priorities, just to let you know that we've updated most of the priorities and vision and also added 2 additional priorities, one on services, retail services for neighborhoods, and one on open space and open areas. If you have questions, I'll be here. Thank you so much for taking a look at this, and we're really looking forward to your guidance.
Thank you, and we'll disconnect. Mr. Mayor, that concludes public comment for this portion. We do have a number of public comments for later in the evening.
Great, thank you. Get my video restarted. The next item is City Council and City Manager comments and reports. City Manager, do you have any comments or reports?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and members of council. I would like to note, I have kind of an exciting thing. What was on the screen now is the template of our new website design that's been in the works for some time, and we hope to have it formally launched in November. But I want to just give you an idea of what it looks like. As you can see, it has various pictures, and we're continuing to upgrade those pictures, and there'll be a continuing change. So that's exciting. But as you can see, there's going to have at the top, there are your general connection buttons, but we've also added what we believe are some of the most used: airport, library, vacation rental, street closures, and watching the Palm Springs station. Now, obviously, these are buttons that can be modified and changed, and then we will obviously still have in the spotlight our news and events. But just to show you a couple ideas, so for example, the calendar. Everything's going to be loaded. So, for example, on any event, it'll take you to what's occurring, and that has a new feel for it. And then another item I'll show you, for example, at the fire department, each department is getting an upgraded look and a feel, and not the least of which, let's show you the city clerks. Well, no, the city clerk is still in design, actually. The one I wanted to show you was the city council. Where are they? They're in design as well. The city council meetings and agendas. Let's try that. Yeah, so that obviously we're continuing to update with additional easier buttons and how people are able to interact. But more importantly, the goal of this was to be as user-friendly as possible, and we're looking at a November launch. So that's pretty exciting news, and I wanted to share that with everyone. Thank you, Mayor. And then second piece, I did want to note that there was a few questions on the budget with regard to whether we actually had a deficit this year. And I would just note that although we were dealing with the COVID and we certainly had to reduce our budget, what we were able to do is reduce our budget to the point that we were able to have in essence, a balanced budget as we moved into the new fiscal year. So we were not in a deficit. And as we noted a couple meetings ago, the first look at our revenues, we did find that we were actually about 15 million that we were able to add to our revenues, which obviously then helped that situation even further. And of course, we had about 4.6 million increase in TOT and about 5 million in sales tax. That being said, we're still very cautious as we move forward through the first quarter budget update, which will be at the meeting of November the 12th. And at that point, we will be able to make some more decisions on the rolling budget of if there's positions to add or other things we want to do. I would note that the 15 million in additional revenue we received, again, that wasn't necessarily a windfall because we did have to remove those dollars originally from our fund balance reserves. So this just helps us to replace those reserves. And so the key issue will be to see what happens at the next budget update, which will be in November. So with that, Mayor, I would turn it back over to the City Council. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. And I just want to just check with you, our finance director. The document that I saw and we discussed at a tourism meeting I was on today showed that July and August, the first 2 months of this fiscal year, the TOT was not only up considerably from what our projections were, but was actually up from July and August of last fiscal year due to a lot of people doing leisure travel at a time of year they normally don't. I just wanted to confirm that with you.
Nancy, our finance director.
Microphone. Yes, that is confirmed. And we'll give you an update on the TOT and the sales tax on a cash basis for the first quarter and first meeting in November.
Great, thank you. So while it doesn't mean revenue is going to be higher for the whole year, it is a really good sign that in the first 2 months of the fiscal year, we're not only significantly exceeding our projections, but we're actually exceeding a year ago pre-COVID for the same months. In TOT, and hopefully we'll see the same in sales tax, which is really good news. And I think we're all really happy to see that in the city because it lets us provide all the services that we want for our residents. So thank you for that. Council member comments. or reports? Councilmember Garner.
Thank you. I actually just have one thing. Today, this morning, I got to join Mrs. Keene's third grade class at Catherine Finchie Elementary. We talked about voting and all of the things that kids can do as well to get involved. And we talked a little bit about what city council does versus what the president does. And Mrs. Keene's third grade class wanted me to make sure that everyone on council and in the city of Palm Springs knows that they like that we're going to have a big splash area at the downtown park. They are really excited about the new surf park and very happy that the surf park is supposed to have some kid stuff too. So hopefully those guys are listening. If you are, the kids are excited for that to open. They want more playground stuff. This includes balls at their school, better nets for their soccer fields, and just more equipment generally. And finally, they would really like a roller coaster. I told them that this was probably not going to work out permanently, but maybe in the future we could figure out how to bring a fair or some other event to Palm Springs that had a roller coaster. But it was a lot of fun, and just a really big thank you to our teachers and to our parents who are doing amazing work. I already had so much respect, but after being on a Zoom call for 15 minutes with 20 third graders, it's a whole new level of respect. So thank you all, parents and teachers, for what you're doing right now.
Great. Thank you, Councilmember Garner. It sounds like a fun event. And when the time comes, I'd be happy to work with you on a roller coaster. I think that would be so much fun. That would be great. I love roller coasters. Any other councilmember comments or reports? Mayor Pro Tem Holstich.
Maybe we can get a Ferris wheel downtown or something like that in a fair. Thank you for that update. That was really heartwarming to hear, and it's always great to hear how we can better serve the kids in our community. I just have one update as well. So we held a District 4 town hall yesterday, and so most of the representatives from our neighborhoods for 1PS and other interested residents attended. Thank you to Captain Kovalev from the Palm Springs Police Department, and thank you to our chief for getting us updated information and crime statistics for District 4. He presented that overall crime has significantly decreased in District 4 over the last 5 years. And we also heard from College of the Desert about their West Campus, which is an important issue in District 4, since many of us live right near there. And we did get Dr. Kinnaman, Dr. Yon, and COD staff to give us information about their design plans. They're currently moving through a design phase to get different proposals for different designs, and then they might be shovels in the ground in just 2 years or so. So that's an update from COD that everyone was excited to receive, and other district issues came up as well. So we'll continue to keep doing those every month or so. So thank you to everyone who participated.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Holstich. Anyone else have any updates or comments? Okay. Seeing none, we will move on to the consent calendar. I will entertain a motion to accept the consent calendar with item 1D removed for separate discussion. Can we get a motion, please? So moved. Motion by Councilmember Wood, second by Councilmember Middleton.
Councilmember Woods.
Aye.
Councilmember Middleton.
Aye.
Councilmember Garner.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Holstich.
Yes.
Mayor Kors.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Great. We'll now move to item 1D, which is renewing an agreement with the Drug Enforcement Administration to participate in task force. Staff report, please.
Mayor, was there a specific question you had on that? The chief is here in the chambers. We can have him address a specific question.
Great. Yeah, if you can just sort of explain what it is and what our role is and sort of what they're trying to accomplish would be great, since I have some questions that I received on this.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. In regards to this agenda item, it is a renewal of our commitment to continue to support a DEA task force. It's supervised by the DEA, and it is housed in our facility within our police station. They've been in our facility since the early 2000, I believe 2004. We do have one member of the Palm Springs Police Department on this task force, and there's representatives from agencies throughout the Coachella Valley. This is a task force that focuses on long-term investigations. Some of these investigations can take a year or two to come to an end. And their focus is on high-volume drug dealing, cartel-level investigations.
Okay, thank you. So this isn't targeting people for individual possession of narcotics?
No, not at all. This is specifically very complicated, organized crime, high volume drug interdiction investigations.
Great. Thank you very much, Chief. Anyone else have any questions or comments? If not, if we can get a motion on item 1D.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Woods.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Middleton.
Councilmember Woods.
Aye.
Councilmember Middleton.
Aye.
Councilmember Garner.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Holstedge.
Yes.
Mayor Kors.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Great. Thank you. Our next item is legislative. It's item 3A, which is consideration of an urgency ordinance establishing limitations on third-party food delivery fees. Staff report, please.
Yes, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, the item before you is a proposed urgency ordinance that would establish limitations on the amount that third-party food delivery services can charge customers, which are then passed on through the restaurant. Under the very first stay-at-home orders that the governor issued, restaurants were prohibited from providing in-person dining, and they were limited really to either drive-through, pickup, or delivery services. Although the restaurants were subsequently authorized to provide in-person indoor dining in early May, that option was removed by the state on July 1st. After that date and continuing until just recently, September 22nd, restaurants within the city were only able to provide in-person dining outdoors. As a result of these limitations, the use of third-party food delivery services, apps, increased significantly. And in a number of jurisdictions, users reported that the fees that were being charged increased as well, and were sometimes reported to be up to 30 or 40% of the food itself. By June, several cities, including New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Washington, D.C., and Seattle, had all set commission limits, generally ranging from 15 to 20% of the diner's total order. The City Council recently requested that staff in the City Attorney's Office bring back a ordinance based on the City of Los Angeles's ordinance, and so we have that before you. We also have in the staff report some reports of what the City of Santa Clara and San Francisco did, so that the city and public see what other jurisdictions did. Under the City of Los Angeles ordinance, which is what ours is modeled after, there are really three main components. The first is a cap, the second is a disclosure requirement, and the third is enforcement. I'll go over each of those in turn. So under the cap, the Los Angeles ordinance establishes a 15% cap on the amount of delivery fee, so that's 15% of the purchase price of the online order. It also has an additional 5% cap on any fees, commissions, or costs that the third-party vendor might impose. So it's a total of 20% of the online food order. It prohibits the online food delivery service from charging a customer the purchase price that's higher than is reported on the delivery service or on the menu if it's not on the service. And it also makes it unlawful for the delivery service to retain any portion of the amounts that are designated as a tip or gratuity. So it requires those tips really to go to the driver and not to the service provider. So the second component is a disclosure component. The ordinance requires that the online delivery service provide written notice to the user of the purchase price of the food and beverages that are being purchased, as well as the delivery fee, any fees, commission, or costs that the delivery service is imposing on the restaurant or on the customer. And also, the delivery service is required to provide written notice or disclosure of the tips or gratuities that the service provider is charging to the customer or to the restaurant. Finally, with regard to the enforcement, the Los Angeles ordinance authorizes a civil action by any person who is aggrieved by the ordinance. So if a delivery service charges either a customer or a restaurant more than is authorized, then that restaurant or customer is authorized to bring a civil action. And in order to kind of incentivize that, or at least not disincentivize it, the ordinance authorizes reasonable attorney's fees for any restaurant or customer who is this delivery service violates this order with regard to. The Los Angeles ordinance specifically did not impose any criminal penalties, and this ordinance that we're bringing before the City Council similarly does not impose any criminal penalties. As the staff report indicates, the Los Angeles City of Los Angeles adopted a second version of their ordinance under which they incorporated by reference the California Penal Code dealing with surcharges during an emergency, price gouging, essentially. This ordinance that we're bringing before you does not do that. It really leaves the enforcement to individuals or restaurants who are aggrieved. The ordinance provides that it lasts until 90 days after the declaration of emergency is over, the local declaration of emergency is over, and again, this does not provide any criminal penalties. So that concludes my presentation. I'm available to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Ballinger, and thank you for turning us around so quickly. Very much appreciated. Any questions or comments from council? Councilmember Middleton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Ballinger, I'm looking at page 9 of the staff report, and under prohibitions, and in number 1, it talks about the fees cannot be more than 15% of the purchase price of each online order. Then down in number 3, it says it cannot be greater than 5% of the purchase price of each order. And I think the reference is that the 15% limit applies to what the driver would receive, and the 5% limit applies to the app service firm. But it's not clear to me that that's what it in fact says under these definitions and prohibitions.
That's a good question. I had to look at this myself when I saw the City of Los Angeles ordinance. It doesn't really specify who it's being paid toward, but generally, yes, the first portion, the 15%, is what usually goes to the driver. The 5% is what goes to the app. But regardless of who it goes to, those caps are in place. And the purpose of not designating who it goes to is really for the consumer's protection.
I'm not sure I understand how it's to the consumer's protection.
Basically, the user of the app, the person who's ordering the food, is guaranteed a cap of 20%, regardless of who it goes to. Again, what's generally considered the fees or commission, that is what usually goes to the service provider. So it'd be Uber Eats or Grubhub. That would be the 5% cap. The 15% would be for the driver.
I admit I've never used one of these services, so maybe I'm not the right person to be raising this, but it just seems that we could be clear with the language here. I totally support the concept.
I'm sorry. If you'd like us to, we can certainly identify in section B1 that's the portion that goes to the delivery service, and B3 is, I'm sorry, for the driver, and that B3 is for the service, if you want to make it more clear.
That would be my thought if my colleagues agree.
Could I follow up on that, Mr.
Yes,
Mayor, if I can? Because I think that's a good point, and I don't think that we want to be capping amounts that go to drivers significantly, since often these types of companies really underpay people, and a tiny portion of the fees go to the workers, who are the people who live and work in Palm Springs. So, but my understanding is that a lot of the delivery charges don't actually go to the driver, right? It's the additional delivery fee that the company is putting on top of the cost. And then primarily the tip is the portion that goes to the driver. So do you have more information? Does this cap the tips? Does this require some of the portion of the delivery fee to go to the driver? How does that all work?
It doesn't get into the details of whether the delivery fee is provided to the driver as a tip or as just a charge. It really is broader that way, regardless of how the service provider characterizes it. It's capped, and you're right, to some extent. This type of ordinance, at least as drafted by Los Angeles, it does provide for the balancing of interests of the consumer and the driver.
So is there a way to exclude tips or something like that from like direct payments to the driver or the worker in this, so that we aren't limiting tips that go fully to our Palm Springs workers?
It does prohibit the service provider from keeping the tips, and so if a customer wants to provide a tip to a driver, they're able to do so, and the service provider is actually prohibited from collecting that.
Okay, thank you. I used this today for my lunch. I apologize to the local business I went to, since, but I am 9 months pregnant, and you do sometimes need these services. So I see that typically you do get the delivery fee, and then there's the service fee, and then there's the cost of the products, and then there's a tip on top of that. So I'm just interested in making sure that we're not limiting what's going just to tip, just to the driver.
It does not.
And the 15% limit is what they can charge the restaurant, because we know sometimes the restaurants are being charged 30% from these services, which is making it not cost effective for restaurants to use these services. Any other comments or questions? Councilmember Woods, then Councilmember Garner.
Thank you, City Attorney Ballinger. Just a question, and because I'm not that familiar with this service, if somebody were to order a burger or a pizza from a Palm Springs restaurant and live in Rancho Mirage, would it still be capped at 15% that they could charge on top of, let's say the pizza was $10, $1.50?
I believe it would be, because they're operating within the city of Palm Springs. If you'd like to have the ordinance make it more clear, I can certainly draft some language to that effect.
what if somebody were the reverse? Let's say I called a restaurant in Rancho Mirage and wanted it delivered to me here. I don't know if these restaurants have geo areas. Is that also the same? They're doing business in Palm Springs? I'm just not clear how it works.
You're absolutely right. The City of Los Angeles ordinance doesn't say that, but again, my interpretation would be the same, because this is really meant to protect both the consumer, the restaurant, as well as the drivers. So my opinion is that if they're operating in the territorial limits of the city, it applies to them.
Thank you. Councilmember Garner.
Thank you. I think this is a really wonderful thing for us to do, and I know it's taken us a little bit of time, but I remember Daryl Terrell commenting on this, bringing it forward to us in public comment a few months ago. So I just want to thank him and let our residents know that a lot of times when you come before us and give us feedback, it often ends up something that we can do something about. So I just really encourage public comment, whether that's on the phone or an email. It really does help us to do things that benefit all of us.
Thank you. Nothing else. Councilman Middleton, do you want to go over your suggested change? Or City Attorney, describe it so we know what that is.
So on page 9, under B1, I would say it shall be unlawful for a third-party delivery service to charge more than 15% fee for that would be paid to the driver. And then under B3, cap the amount of money that could be paid to the app service, identify app service at no more than 5%.
So for the City Attorney, is it paid to the driver, or it's really, we'll charge to the restaurant, right?
For delivery.
Right.
Correct. These are being charged to the restaurant, which then charges the customer. What I think I'm hearing Councilmember Middleton saying is what these fees go towards. And the 15% is towards the driver for the service of driving. The 5% cap goes towards the online platform for basically providing the platform for the users in the restaurants.
Right, but when I looked on this online, it's what the apps are saying is 15% they charge the restaurant, not for the driver. The driver just gets the tips. They charge the restaurant 15% saying it's marketing.
Yeah.
So it's not for the driver. It's actually for the company, the app company, and they're charging the restaurant.
That's right.
Which is sort of, I think, what you have right now. Right? It doesn't specify for the driver because the driver's not getting that money. It's that they can't charge more than 15% above what the restaurant's charging. The driver doesn't get that cash.
That's
so
right.
I don't want to limit it to the driver. It's just the 15% total, I think.
I'm certainly willing to defer to those who are much more experienced at the service than I am. But my concern is that the driver, the person who's actually doing the work, get a fair share of the fee that is being paid.
And they really don't in the model that, currently exists. And so that's why I don't think we should specify paid to driver here, because I think the mayor's right that this is actually the markup that they're putting on top and charging the restaurants. And the problem that was brought up is that this is essentially price gouging restaurants and local businesses to take a huge portion. Sometimes we're hearing up to 30% of the profit or of the total cost. So I think I agree with your change for number 3, specifying to the company. I think that's important. For number 1, I wouldn't write out paid to driver, but I would ask that we also Because my fear is that now the companies could take more from the tip for the drivers. And the tips, I wonder if we can specify that the tip should be protected to the driver.
City Attorney, is that in here? I thought it was.
It does. B6, also on page 9, at the very bottom of the page, provides it's unlawful for the delivery service to retain any portion that's designated as a tip or gratuity. So if you as a user are ordering your pizza at home and you say you want to give the driver a $5 tip, this portion of the ordinance makes it unlawful for the provider to take that tip.
Councilmember Garner.
Just one thing on this, because I do think it is a little bit confusing. Is it possible to insert an example to just be very clear on how it all works if we break it down like that?
Certainly.
Thank you. Anything else? Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Holstage. Second by Councilmember Garner.
And just for clarification, we're then going to identify in B4 that 5% commission fee or cost is what's paid to the service provider, but we're not going to make any clarification or any other changes to the 15% cap. Okay, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Holstage.
Yes.
Councilmember Garner.
Yes.
Councilmember Middleton.
Aye.
Councilmember Woods.
Aye.
Mayor Kors.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0, and I'll read the ordinance title, which is an urgency ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Springs, California, establishing limitations on third-party food delivery fees.
Thank you very much. Our next item is 4A, consideration of approving the concept design for the airport turf conversion project. Staff report, please.
Mr. Mayor and members of council, we're very pleased to bring before you this evening the concept design for turf removal at the airport. The project itself consists of two different components. The first is a demonstration garden, and then the second component is the future conversion of other turf areas at the airport. In terms of the demonstration garden itself, the idea was brought to us by the Desert Water Agency, and so we're appreciative of their help and their financial support in this project. The demonstration garden is located in between the fountain that's located at the end of Tahquitz Canyon and the west face of the terminal building itself. So it's one of the primary routes and on the primary access to the terminal. In terms of the area, what is being proposed as a demonstration garden is the use of drought-tolerant plants, but instead of the common varieties that you typically see elsewhere, these will be some of the less used varieties. There will also be signage because there's an educational component to the demonstration garden. So signage will be included identifying the plants and the importance of drought-tolerant plants to a water-efficient environment. Also, there will be pollinator-friendly plants, so butterfly garden and the types of plants that attract them, and bees. We'll have a portion that's dedicated to edible plants. There will be paths throughout the landscaped areas so that people can come into close contact with the signage and the plants themselves. And then also wildflowers are included as a component of that. In looking at the specific design of the demonstration garden, one of the things that's being retained is in the center of it, the axial view of the west facade of the airport terminal. The center is going to be kept with very low growing plants so that we maintain the views of the terminal and of the fountain, which is one of the critical design components of the airport. And then larger plants will be located at the perimeter of the project, but again, maintaining the center space open.
We also have a small area where we're currently showing synthetic turf. There's been a discussion about that at Sustainability Commission. We might eliminate that portion as we get further into design development on the construction drawings for the project itself. The Sustainability Commission has reviewed the proposed design and also been a partner in the design of the demonstration garden. They reviewed that at their July 21st meeting. The Landscape Subcommittee of the Airport Commission reviewed the project on September the 14th, and then the full Airport Commission approved the conceptual designs on September the 16th. Funding for the project comes from grants that we are going to receive from the state, also from a rebate from the Desert Water Agency, and then we have approximately the remainder of the funding, which is about half of the funding, will come from our Water Efficiency Program account. And so that is the first component. We are seeking your approval of that this evening. We also wanted to present to you the future phases of turf conversion projects at the airport. That would involve the conversion of turf areas along El Cielo Road on the west side of the airport, and then the turf areas located along the Ramon Road frontage on the south end of the airport. The intent is to begin phasing these in as funding is available for those projects. But again, these are future phases. Mr. Mayor, that concludes my presentation. We have Todd Holmes, who is our consultant on the project. If you have any specific questions about the plant materials, he would be the one to answer those. But again, we're seeking your support of the demonstration garden and conceptual support of the future phases of the turf conversion project. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Director Fagg, and thank you and others for their work on this. Exciting to see that kind of demonstration garden at our already great airport. So council member questions or comments? Councilmember Garner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is wonderful to see us using natural landscape and things that are natural to the desert. I think it looks really beautiful, and it helps to convey a better feel for our city as well, and kind of what we're looking at for the future of our city in the valley. I do hope that this is just one of many projects that we do around our city and in front of our city hall and other places to be more environmentally friendly and use less water. So thank you so much for bringing this. I think it's quite lovely. And I look forward to seeing the finished design. I also appreciate that you're going to have the nameplates of the different plants, because I think there's a lot of people who see these desert plants all over the place but don't know the names, because they probably didn't take Mrs. Aguano's biology class at Palm Springs High School where they learned all of those names. So for those of you that didn't take that class, now you'll know. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Holstage.
Thank you. I agree with Councilmember Garner. I just have a few questions and comments about the turf and the plants and the different species. So maybe I'll ask those, and then our expert can come up and answer them. So one, I'm interested in supporting the Sustainability Commission's recommendation to get rid of artificial turf. I agree with them. That's made of plastic, and we don't know the impact on our environment. I'm wondering about what the climate adaptive turf means and the water usage for that. And then I saw in the schematic or the design that there were portions for native plants, but I was wondering, it doesn't have that in the list in the staff report. So how many would really be native plants, native to our natural environment? And then if you could talk a little bit about the pollinator habitat or monarch habitat or other ways we might be able to include that if it's not already included. So I'll leave you there, and then I can ask one by one if you didn't catch that all.
So Mayor Pro Tem, we have Mr. Holmes on the line, and so we may ask you to repeat those questions one by one for Mr. Holmes so that he can respond to those. So Mr. Holmes.
Thank you.
Types. We've kept things deliberately at a conceptual level at this stage, but our goal now is to go forward into the CD phase and drill down more deeply into the actual plant selection. So the idea of the pollinator and native insect areas would be to have plants that would be adapted to the desert that would facilitate, things like the milkweed is a typical monarch plant type. The climate-adapted turf area was there's many different options that we could go in that direction on, and I think that was something that we haven't zeroed in on a specific plant type. As far as the native plants go, that'll be an interesting question in terms of the types of plants that we select that are typical for the Coachella Valley. That, in terms of the project wasn't envisioned as much as a restoration kind of project to recreate a native habitat as much as a demonstration of climate-adapted plant types that could be used that would be successful. And I think one of the things that we were striving for was things that you see a lot of Hesperaloe and a lot of things that are very typical. We wanted to try to move into some plants that were a little less common, but also readily available. So we have several nurseries. Our company has worked in the Coachella Valley for many years, and we have some good partnerships. And so we were going to try to really look for things that would be interesting and unusual that could be, somewhat like, oh, that's kind of a different thing that we could utilize. That would be something, because you see, as I mentioned, just a lot of sort of typical types of plants that. So it was kind of our goal with some diversity. When working with the Sustainability Commission, we had some really good activist interest in terms of the different individuals involved. So I'm looking forward to kind of collaboratively working with them to go through a plant selection process that would be inclusive and allow people to, basically have a voice in this. And so we could have a community-driven process for the plant selection, because it's very important in this project that we have a good diversity of plant types represented, and that we don't, end up with something that's just kind of typical or boring. And then also I might comment that from an aesthetic standpoint, the goal of the project is to present a diversity of plant types rather than trying to do something that would be the aesthetic, kind of presentation of something, that would be symmetrical planting. So I hope that, Mayor and Council, I hope that addresses the question. I'd be happy to follow up on anything you'd like to hear more about.
Thank you. Please stay on the line.
Thank you. It sounds like a lot to balance with. I do think it'll be an important draw and educational opportunity for our tourists and residents as they walk that way or walk to our airport. So that's fantastic. And it sounds like you'll continue to work with the Sustainability Commission, who I know will advocate for the right kind of turf and native plants, pollinator habitats, and all of that, along with the diversity that will draw people there. So thank you for your work.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Anyone else? Councilmember Woods?
This would be for the consultant, if I could. I'm just curious, on the colored concrete pad, do those, the white that's on the outside of the whole of the two modules, what is that white a concrete sidewalk?
Yes, it is.
Okay, just, so I guess I'm having a little problem with the climate adapted turf, because if I were to carry my luggage and come where the synthetic turf is, I would almost want to walk in a straight line to the fountain. And I don't know if that's what you intended, was the people that take their baggage over the climate adapted turf.
No, that's a very good point. Thank you. Because it was one of the issues that we dealt with circulation in terms of the existing crosswalks and wanting to make sure that people stayed to the edges. So the idea of the layout was that the path of travel would stay on the edges of the demonstration garden on the sidewalks, and that you would use the existing crosswalks. So I think the climate adapted turf would be something I think that might not be, mode to ground level. I think the idea is something that might be a little fluffier, and because I do think that that's not, the intention was not to create a path of travel down the middle. So the idea was to kind of keep people, because we definitely didn't want people trying to cross in the middle where there was no crosswalk. So I think that is an important consideration. I think and I think we might use a couple of different turf types, and I think having something on the terminal side that would tend to maybe grow a little taller could be something that could discourage that, I think, because you're right. It would not, especially with the synthetic turf area there, that could create a invitation to kind of want to go down the middle, and I think that was definitely something we were trying to avoid.
Great. Yeah, my suggestion would be to change the synthetic turf layout to really direct people to the colored concrete paths and the other paths that are there, would be my suggestion on the process. And can you tell me, on the other end, it's connected to the fountain by the existing sidewalks on the far west end?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
the same path of travel connection to the fountain would remain in terms of the crosswalks that are already existing.
Yeah, I would just suggest rethinking the synthetic turf area to direct people again. I think it's a great idea for our city. I like the idea, and I would be supportive of it.
Thank you for your input. I think that makes a lot of sense to consider that.
Great. Anyone else have any comments or questions?
I just want to compliment Flynn, staff, our contractor, and Desert Water Agency. This is an outstanding move that has been asked for by the community for years.
Very exciting.
Councilmember Middleton, I think we need to thank Patrick Tallarico, our sustainability manager, who has shepherded this project. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here this evening, but again, this is his work. Thank you.
Thank you, Flynn, for correcting.
We have a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Middleton, second by Councilmember Woods.
Councilmember Middleton.
Aye.
Councilmember Woods.
Aye.
Councilmember Garner.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Holstedge.
Yes.
Mayor Kors.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Great, thank you. The next item is 5A, review of the Planning Commission recommended revisions to the general plan vision statement and priorities. Staff report, please.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor and members of council. We're very excited to bring this before you this evening. This is the first step of the limited update to the city's general plan. So as you know, we started this process back in late last year, and we're now at the first step, getting done with the first step, which is to confirm the vision and priorities of the general plan, the 2040 general plan. The next step, once we get through this, is to update goals, policies, administrative updates to the different elements that we're looking at. Those are the land use, circulation, housing, and safety elements. And then conduct the environmental review and adopt the final general plan. So it's about a 1.5-year process. There has been some hiccups this year, of course, so we're working through those. But tonight we're looking at, as I said, the general plan vision and priorities. So the 2007 general plan has a set of vision and priorities. And the vision statement itself is kind of a broad statement. It serves as the foundation for all goals and policies of our general plan. It's the common ground from which decisions are made, and it defines the priority, the city's priorities where resources should be focused. And that is different from the 10 priority statements that we currently have in our general plan. And those statements are values and themes that require more focused attention and provide future direction. They also prioritize the use of staff, resources, and the allocation of our budget. And so priorities do form the basis for the goals and policies that are contained within the general plan. And the goals and policies are more focused in nature and really show how we can achieve the city's vision and priorities. So To get into some of the specifics as to where we are with the vision and priorities, in order to ensure that the vision and priorities reflect the community's values, we did outreach to the public, and we've had 2 public input surveys. The first survey that we did was rolled out at a community workshop back in February of this year. And that survey was open for 2 weeks. It was available in both English and Spanish formats. We had it available online as well as in print copies that we gave for participants. And that material, or that survey, was also provided to different neighborhood organizations that we went out, as well as different organizations in the community that we went out and provided the survey to get additional feedback. So we kind of wanted to make sure that the survey was pushed out to a number of different avenues to make sure we got feedback. As I said, it was also provided on our social media platforms. And of course, we have our dedicated general plan website, PS General Plan, that the survey was available for anyone to take 24 hours a day during the 2-week period which it was open. So once we got the results from that survey, we had a total of 338 responses. We did a specific summary of those findings from the survey from the participants, and I'll get into that in just a minute. But it was really the basis for the General Plan Steering Committee, who looked at which is the committee that has been appointed to review the general plan update and provide recommendations to the Planning Commission and Council. And so the General Plan Steering Committee reviewed the survey findings back in June and as well as in July, and made a recommendation to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission reviewed the revised vision and priorities recommendations from the steering committee back on July 29th and made a final recommendation last month on September 9th. So now here we are with, for your review, these recommendations. So going back to the survey, what we heard on the vision statement itself, there was 52% of the participants agreed that the vision statement was acceptable as it was written. We did get a number of recommendations on updating the vision statement, as you see here on the screen, removing the words high style, addressing cultural, architectural, and historic resources, being an inclusive and diverse community, addressing the natural environment, parks, and sustainability, balancing the resort community with the needs of local residents of all ages, prioritizing our village feel, developing affordable housing as opposed to visitor-serving uses, referencing the reference to working population, educational opportunities, and embracing new technologies, and lastly, mental and physical health and well-being of the community. So what you have here on the screen on the vision statement shows what we have currently in our general plan, the 2007 vision on the left side, and then on the right side, the text that has been added to address the future vision of Palm Springs. So as you see on the right, the red text is the new language. We took out the text that was deleted to just show a clearer view of what the proposed vision is. So as it's shown here, you can see Palm Springs is a vibrant and inclusive desert resort community where year-round and seasonal residents and visitors enjoy safe neighborhoods, an exciting social environment, and relaxing and positive experience. The city values its architectural, historical, cultural, and natural resources and balances resident priorities with economic and sustainable growth. We celebrate our diversity and foster equity and unity among all our residents. And the city provides responsive, friendly, and efficient public service for all our residents and businesses. And so that is kind of really the guiding principle or foundation of what Palm Springs, where it wants to be and what it is for the next 20 years. When we look at the priorities, we had our survey respondents, a majority of them felt that the priorities were acceptable as written. 7 priorities exceeded 70% favorability as written. They felt that the priorities were acceptable as written or were okay. About 80% approve of the efficient use of resources and preservation of the unique built environment as written. The lowest approval that we had was for the range of retail and the range of housing, the priorities that address those matters. And so you can see here, these are really the headers for each of the 10 priorities. As you can see, priority 1B on the left and priority 7B were the new priorities that were added to address the changes to the vision and the changes to what the steering committee and planning commission felt were important in terms of specific themes that should be addressed at a higher level and could be addressed more specifically with the goals and policies that we're updating. So all of these are in your staff report, and we have indicated the specific changes in red line format on pages 4 through 8 of your report. And staff is happy to go through any of these with the council and address specific questions on these priorities. So with that, I'll turn it back to the mayor because that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you much for the report, and thank you to everyone on the committee and everyone who participated. Just before we start, get a sense of how we want to go through this. I did talk to the planning director earlier today. We're not in a rush to get this done at this meeting, and so one thing I just brought up was maybe to give some input, but there are definitely, since the agenda came out, and I've had meetings with folks in my district and with business community and others who didn't know this was happening and would like to weigh in on the broader vision, that we do have the opportunity. There's not a timeline where if we bring this back at the first meeting in November and give some direction, there will be time to be able to go to those group meetings, the organization stakeholder meetings, to get some of their input. So I just want to throw that out for folks. We can discuss if we want to do that. And I don't know if you want to just go through page by page or make more general comments. I have a bunch that are more specific, but happy to sort of get a sense on how people want to go through this.
Mr. Mayor, I think I would ask staff first to frame what the general plan is, because it's an incredibly important document. What it's the Bible for our city and our future growth. And if they could talk a little bit about that, I think it would help the listening public and anyone who wants to be involved to understand more what we're looking at tonight.
Sure.
Good idea, Councilmember Willis. Thanks, David.
So the general plan is, every city in California has a general plan. It's required by state law. It does serve as the foundation for, as I said, the kind of long-term vision of what a city wants to be in about 20 years or 15 or 20 years out. It also provides the basis for the fabric of the community. So the land use layout, the circulation network, the open space, the conservation areas, various other topics like noise, air quality. There's certain, they're called elements of the general plan, and the statement has certain mandates that every city have each of these elements as a part or that is incorporated with the general plan. So they're really to address specific topics in every community in California. Housing being another one. So it really is, it's broad in nature, but it does have direction in terms of how we get there. It has goals and policies, so how do we get there? We give specific goals and and direction and policies to get there, as well as action items on how the vision and the priorities and goals and policies are achieved. So as I mentioned, we last had an update to the general plan in 2007. This is a more focused update. It's not a comprehensive update to all of those elements. But again, it really is the long-term vision for the city, and we're taking another look at it based on some things that have happened in the past 10 or 15 years, locally, as well as some things that have happened with the state in terms of changes to climate change, housing, and a number of other topics.
Great, thank you. And this is sort of the first piece, which is the big vision and priorities. And then after that will come the specific action items that we want to move to. But given, COVID, it did limit sort of the input in this, and we haven't done this for over 13 years, and this will last over a decade. And when we think we had 300 people participate, and we had 1,303, if I remember, count Mayor Pro Tem Hostage, on the downtown park. And this really touches everyone's lives. I would like the opportunity, if council agrees, to be able to get more input. We only had one comment tonight, and that's from the person who shared it, and we appreciate Commissioner Wormick's work on this. But so many people did not know this was coming, and COVID's made these things more difficult, of course. So I don't know if folks want to just sort of give general direction now. We can sort of go through these sort of one page at a time and see if anyone has anything on them. Is that a good way forward for folks? Councilmember Middleton.
I would second your thought that we need to have more community input and involvement on this. And I would specifically like to see an outreach to Main Street, to 1PS, and other entities that gather people together. But I have very broad compliments for the Planning Commission, for the staff, for the individuals that were part of the general plan update. So I think rather than taking the time to go page by page, I would more like to just give some general comments regarding this, and then go page by page when we come back after there's been a little more community input.
That's fine. I'm good with that. I'm happy to go first unless someone else would like to go. Okay, so first I agree. I thought it's really good. I really appreciate the work that's gone into this. I will look quickly at page by page at my notes and make broad comments. I think in the original, and I'm on page 3 of the staff report, which is the broader of the 4 vision points, I think we talk about a relaxing and positive experience, but I don't think we talk about, I would like to see some stuff about educational and career opportunities maybe in there. We have working people in this city, and it's not just, it doesn't feel like it's inclusive in that way. I don't think that's deliberate. I'm not thrilled about the idea that we're balancing what residents want with sustainable growth. I think that's what residents want. So I just want us to really think about that a little differently. I know the Sustainability Commission was in, but in talking about celebrating diversity, if we have time, I'd love to get the Human Rights Commission to come up with how they want to talk about us, not just fostering unity, but actually being more affirmative in those areas. So sort of in broad concepts. The new priorities, one of the things that just hit me on both of those was they feel like they're pulling one thing from the broader priority and prioritizing it over the other. So in this case, I agree with it. I'll just give it as an example, right? Foster enhancing opportunities for open space, which is already covered with ecotourism, natural resources, pedestrian-oriented shopping, unique architecture. So why pull one out? I agree with that, but is that really a subset of that? So how that all frames together on both of the new ones. It seems like it's saying that's more important than the architecture and the other things that are above it. So I just wanted to get a sense maybe from staff on why pull one piece out to then add more to. It just seems like a subset. I think there's some stuff about, the needs of families, which is great. I also want to make sure we include something on people with disabilities in here. I think it's an important piece of what we're working on as a city. And I want to talk a little bit more about traffic patterns and things like that, but those are just broad comments. So those are sort of my broad comments, but I'd like to see more input on those. And I think when we're talking about the resort piece, it'd be great to hear from the tourism stakeholders on, for example, different types of lodging opportunities, right? What are the things that help create the economic growth piece while also serving residents? So those are my broad strokes. Who else would like to? Mayor Pro Tem Olstich.
Thank you. Great comments. I agree with everything you said, so thank you. And I do agree we need a lot more input. And it's really thinking from a place of what is our vision for the city for the next 10 to 15 years, and less starting here with this language, right? And I would love to hear that from all of the different stakeholders and groups that we have, in particular, young people and kids. We heard tonight, Councilmember Garner heard from them about what they want the city to look like in 10 years. And I see that only 9% of the survey respondents were under 40. And maybe that might mimic some of our districts and some of our residents, but really to talk about the future, I think we should engage kids and young people, like people at the Boys and Girls Club. So I would love to see more outreach there as we think creatively about what the future of Palm Springs will look like in 10 or 15 years. One thing that I saw a lot of information about open space, which I hear from residents again and again. I didn't see a ton about parks and recreational opportunities. So my sense in talking to residents every day is that there might be more visioning and goals that we might want to put there. I see that there's some statements of like a broad range of housing opportunities, but I actually think we want to call out that we need affordable housing, we need mid-range or housing and at different price points so that we can have a diverse city, that people who live in Palm Springs can afford, people who work in Palm Springs can afford to live in Palm Springs. I saw that that was considered. And I agree with the portion about the mayor's comments about the economy and making sure it's an economy that works for everyone, that people can afford to get living wage jobs here, that we expand those industries. So I saw the Planning Commission made some revisions there, and I really think they did an excellent job in the committee in making these changes. One other comment I had is it talks about families. Sometimes we don't define what that means. So I think actually specifically calling out that we need more services for kids, but we also need other services and spaces for all types of families, right? Palm Springs is very diverse and unique in that we have many different types of families and we want to be inclusive there. Let's see if I have others. I like the changes around sustainability and protecting or mitigating from climate change or the climate crisis that we're in. I think in 10 years, Palm Springs climate will be significantly different. We're already seeing that in the season that we're in, and we need to do more work around that. And then I saw that it talked about the Planning Commission had added like adequate parking in neighborhoods, and it talked about transit, but it talked about public transportation. And I would just push us to think about what the future of sustainable transportation will be in 10 years, because, you know, it could be we're all on scooters or we're on we have a tram or something like that, that we're not so reliant on cars, especially since the governor has said that they're going to phase out fossil fuel cars, hopefully sooner than they announced. So those are my general comments, I think, about the vision. But I think we'll hear that from residents if we do a lot more outreach with some of those groups. And I love the idea of engaging more of our commission, because I think they will have good input there. And those are community leaders on Parks and Rec, on human rights, that we want to get their feedback on this. Thank you.
Great comments. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Holstitch. Anyone else? Councilmember Garner, and then Councilmember Middleton.
Actually, I thought we were going to end, so Councilmember Middleton can go first. I would appreciate it.
All right. Well, I want to second the comments that I've heard already from my colleagues. I agree. I think one of the things that it's going to be very important for us to do is to remember this needs to be a living document that's going to last for the next 20 years. So we need to ensure that we keep enough flexibility for future planning commissions, for future city councils, to be able to respond to the needs of that time. I very much applaud the work that was done addressing climate change and addressing sustainability in this. So I hope we continue to do that. One of the areas, and I did get a comment from one of the planning commissioners, I think we absolutely need to encourage the use of more shade trees in and around all new development. I know the palm trees are iconic, but they do not provide shade, and that natural shade is something that's very important. Affordable housing, mid-range price housing, means that we are going to have to address issues of density. And at times that also means that we're going to have to be looking at projects that, given how precious the land is that we have left in Palm Springs, are going to have to go up. And that is a really critical issue, that whenever we make a decision that we're going to have a project that's going to be elevated, that it fits into its neighborhood and it fits into the community. So I would like to encourage that whenever we are going up, that we are looking at how does it fit with its surroundings, and is it in fact providing greater affordability to our community. Lastly, our seniors are going to be looking for some different types of housing options than we have seen in the past, and I want to ensure that those options that seniors are looking for are something that is included in a project that is stalled a little bit right now, but one that I thought magnificently was well designed for seniors was the Living Out project that was proposed for Tahquitz Canyon, and I am very anxious to see that project get built and for other projects like that to be built in the city.
Thank you. I appreciate Councilmember Middleton bringing up the shade, because that was also something that really got to me as well when we received that comment. You know, it is very hot here, and as Mayor Pro Tem said, our temperatures are likely going to continue to rise. You know, and hopefully that will change, but for now, that's our reality, and more shade would be really appreciated. I also applaud the discussion of renewable energy and other green businesses being brought to the Valley. I think that that's really untapped right now, just throughout our economy, throughout our country, and what better place than here to do it. In terms of housing, I also wanted to bring up rentals and renting space, because, you know, there's a number of reasons why somebody might rent a property versus buying. I know for me, I can't afford a home in Palm Springs, but I'd love to buy a house in Palm Springs. So I do appreciate that calling out. affordable housing for all different incomes as far as purchasing, but I know a lot of friends of mine who have no interest in purchasing a house. They like renting, and I think that should be something that we have available to people too. And in terms of seniors as well, I know that there's some seniors who prefer to rent later on in life because that's a bit easier than having to maintain a property on your own. And I agree as far as more emphasis on parks and outdoor spaces. One thing that a resident brought to my attention once was pocket parks, which are essentially small parklets that are throughout an area. And that kind of ties in with this idea of having a walkable city and walkable neighborhoods. One of the things that I miss so much about living in Washington, D.C., was that I lived in a neighborhood that had so many things within walking distance. I could walk to a little market, to the best pizza in the city, to the farmer's market. I mean, everything was so close. And even, an upscale bar and a dive bar, it was all there within just a 2-block radius. And I think that kind of access doesn't have to be limited to big cities. We can have that in our cities that are mid-sized, like Palm Springs. There's no reason we can't. So I'd love to see us move in that direction, which also, again, goes back into that environmental component, because if we're walking places, it's much better for the environment. And I also want to just mention, when we're talking about open space, also thinking about outdoor space. I know that there's been a lot of development in the last few years, and one of the things I keep noticing about a lot of the new projects we have is they're beautiful, but they usually have heavy concrete outdoor spaces, not really a lot of natural space. So I'm hoping that we can support more projects that have more natural space. And we are going to, I think, need to be mindful of density, but that's still an opportunity to have some sort of outdoor space for people, whether they're renters or property owners. And lastly, I would just want to emphasize again the mayor's mention of people with disabilities. I think that really needs to be something that we think about in the design of our city. We want everyone to be able to access all of these different spaces, and some of them are not very good use if a good majority of people can't truly access them in the way they want. And that goes too for people who have children in strollers. Strollers often you don't consider, of course, having a stroller as a disability, but it does give the similar access issues as if you have a wheelchair or a cane or something else like that. But otherwise, I really appreciate all of the comments that I've heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Garner. Councilmember Woods.
Well, I don't want to repeat all the great comments that were made by my previous council members, but I agree with them. I would also like to see another priority added to this. I would like to see urban form and something fleshed out with urban form. And you may ask, what does that mean, or why do I say that? I say that if you look at our downtown, it's very unique and it's incredibly walkable, because you walk by and you're not walking by huge parking lots to get into the retail establishments and the restaurants and whatnot. But yet you go to some of the outskirts that we have at some of our intersections, and they're suburban based with massive parking lots, and the stores are behind. And I don't think that needs to be the urban form that I'd like to see 20 years down the road as we build out our city. So I'd really like to see a new priority added about urban form. I do like the new priority that was added about open space. I applaud for that. I think the new priority number 2 about retail in residential areas, I think we just need to flesh that out a little bit more so it's understood what is really meant by that, if we mean like a corner market or what we're really talking about there. And I think our circulation priority needs to be reworked. We heard some comments earlier about the future. It could be scooters, it could be whatever, but we don't want to encourage bicycling and pedestrian movement. We want to promote it. And there's a huge difference between encouraging and promoting. And I think some of the language throughout this, especially the circulation element, which is so vital to how our city is set up, needs to be buffed up a little bit. And that could also be, we heard trees earlier from a council member. Maybe trees on our thoroughfares, where we have bicycling and whatnot, so it's not so stark and whatnot, or we narrow some of our lanes. I think just buffing up our circulation a little bit more, making it much more powerful than it currently is, would be great. And I, quite frankly, don't think we should be in our priorities promoting parking. I think we should be looking at how we do parking, not promoting parking. Parking will come, parking will be there, but if we're really going to look at a city for the future, that's not something we necessarily want to do. So that would be my direction, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for those. And thank you to everyone. These are all really good comments. And just in having this conversation, just really pointed out what we're doing here, right? We're trying to, what do we want our city to look like over the next 10 to 20 years? And this is a big deal, right? This is the big framework that we're then going to do the rest of this project on. And, the importance of thinking about climate, thinking about access for folks, thinking about transportation in a very different way, right? And I think Councilmember Woods, your comment on parking, was one of my notes was, that's secondary, right? It's promoting, and I like that word versus encouraging. I mean, all these comments, I think, resonated with all of us. Which is good, because I think we'll have some really good discussions on this. And I think in setting this piece of this first piece, will really help as the committee works on the goals and the specifics under them. So I think what they gave us is great, and I think we should get a lot more input, really make the effort, despite COVID, to get as many stakeholder groups, organizations, residents engaged as we can. Councilmember Garner.
Just one note on that. One of the things that I found a little bit difficult about providing comments was seeing the original information there, because I thought, oh, well, that sounds pretty good. And there were things that I wanted to add, but I felt like I was getting a little stuck in the language that was presented before me. And so I'm curious if we can solicit opinions without having some of this language there and with, to just see what people come up with.
So maybe, Councilmember Garner, it's maybe we put out sort of the broad categories for folks to weigh in, what kind, whether it's housing, environment, and sort of, because, yeah, you're right. It did definitely, I think the work was focused on editing what existed before. And it would be great to hear from our community if there's some just new ways of saying things that might be a better fit with today. I like that idea a lot. Anyone else? Councilmember Middleton.
I just want to end by thanking the folks that were involved in this project. They did an incredible amount of work here. And when I made the comment about, I think we need to get a little bit more input, that's just simply because COVID has made it more difficult as we get to today for some people to weigh in. I know how much effort they took to reach out to the public, and that shows in the number of public comments, letters that were received on this.
Absolutely. And, one idea just for the committee to think about if they want, we could do a district Zoom town hall in each district as a way to get input. Because some people, as we've seen when we've done these things in person, some people like to submit their comments on their own. Some like to have that discussion. And that may be a way to do that as well. So just an idea to share with staff and with the committee as we move forward on this. So with that, we will move on to the next item. Thank you very much. And thank you, staff and the committee. So our next item is 5B, which is awarding a construction contract to John Bean Technologies Corporation in the amount of $7,042,945 for the airport passenger boarding bridges.
Mr. Mayor, the city attorney has indicated that he is requesting that we pull this item with regard to a bid protest. He needs to finalize some of the formalities of that procedure, and we will bring this back to the next meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Our next item is 5C, direction regarding the interview process for upcoming board and commission vacancies. Staff report, please.
Honorable Mayor and City Council, staff is seeking direction regarding the interview process for the upcoming board and commission vacancies. Currently, Councilmember Garner and Mayor Pro Tem Holstedge serve as the interviewing subcommittee for the midterm vacancies. There will be 23 positions with terms expiring on December 31st on most of the boards and commissions. The City Council is requested to provide direction on the following two questions. One, shall Councilmember Garner and Mayor Pro Tem Holstead continue to serve as the interviewing subcommittee for all boards and commissions, with the exception of the Historic Site Preservation Board, Measure J Commission, and the Planning Commission? Two, does the City Council desire to interview applicants for the Historic Site Preservation Board, Measure J Commission, and Planning Commission as a whole? Or does the City Council want to delegate screening and interviewing of these boards and commissions to the subcommittee? Or some other alternative? And I do want to mention that we will be asking incumbents and candidates with applications older than 1 year to submit updated applications. If anyone fails to do so, we will send multiple reminders and or call to ensure that they are still interested in being considered. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember comments. Councilmember Garner.
I feel like I raised my hand first a lot. I support changing to new people to begin these interviews. Mayor Pro Tem and I have been doing this since January, and I think for many reasons it probably makes sense for a couple of new people to begin this. And I do hope that we'll be able to discuss more of the process at an upcoming meeting, because I think I know I have quite a few ideas for how the process can be improved, and I think Mayor Pro Tem does as well, that we can discuss when that time is right.
Thank you. The question for the city clerk is, do we have a number of vacancies right now that need to be interviewed, or is this really for the positions that are expiring, or both?
This is really for the positions that are expiring December 31st. The Planning Commission has one vacancy. If you give me 1 second. The Planning Commission has one vacancy. The HSPB has one vacancy. Measure J has one vacancy. The Sustainability Commission has two, but they do have a larger board than the others. And Human Rights Commission has one vacancy. So because we only have one vacancy on most of these commissions, they are still able to meet and function. And since they also have vacancies coming up, it typically makes more sense to hold those vacancies and combine them with the interviews with those terms that are expiring December.
Great. Any other comments? Mayor Pro Tem Holstead.
Thank you. I agree with Councilmember Garner, but I do think it's important, maybe it doesn't have to be now, but later, to have some policy direction to the subcommittee or the liaison about what we do want to see on our commissions. For example, I know Councilmember Garner and I have talked as the liaisons in doing these appointments that now we have districts, and so we should be mindful of making sure that boards and commissions are diverse and representative of all of our districts. And so we added, Anthony, our city clerk, added to the application which district people live in. You know, I've raised the issue that we have boards and commissions without any women, or one woman out of 12. You know, there's other diversity measures that we really need to track and look at in terms of our boards and commissions, as well as other life experiences. So people who are parents, people who work in Palm Springs, you know, all those different factors of people that we want to serve, so that we do have a diversity of voices. So I think that might be interesting to talk about at least relay to the next subcommittee who takes that on, so that we can have kind of consistent values in who we need on these commissions, because we just did almost a year's worth of work with the chairs and with the city clerk to see who is needed on these commissions in terms of experience. So that's what I just wanted to add that before we move on.
Thank you. Councilmember Middleton.
I first want to thank Councilmember Garner and Mayor Pro Tem Holstage for all of the work that they have done over the year. They've taken an awful lot off of the plates of the rest of us to do this. So thank you. And I would agree with what I've heard so far from my colleagues. I think the idea of having two individuals to take and do this and do all of them was a really good idea. I would like to see us set up some type of rotation so that you essentially take this on for a year, then it's two other individuals. And since we have 5 people, it also means we'll mix up over time which ones of us are serving with someone else. So I fully support that. HSPB, Measure J, and the Planning Commission have such profound impacts that I would like to see us continue to have that be a committee of the whole that conducts those interviews. And lastly, I would encourage us for the December vacancies to concentrate just on where we have vacancies. We're going to have a very large number of positions that will be coming up mid-year and do what we need to do to fill the positions now that are coming vacant or are vacant, but try to do more recruitment and defer most of our appointments where we can to July 1 of next year.
Yeah, that was one of my questions. So are we filling these? Are we going back, trying to get back to our fiscal year? City Clerk?
Yes, that would be the goal. So the City Council extended the terms in June because of COVID through December. And then we will come up again on another round of vacancies occurring in June of 2021. And then as long as we don't extend terms again, we'll be on cycle as the code permits.
Great. So are we looking to appoint 2 people for this round for the end of the year and then 2 other people for that next round? Or are we looking to appoint 2 people to do both of those? Councilmember Garner.
You saw that big sigh. If we do have an interest to move forward a year at a time, I'm happy to finish that. I don't know, Councilmember Holstage, how you feel, or Mayor Pro Tem, how you feel about that, and just the upcoming rest of the year for you.
Yeah, and I think some of our commissions had asked for us to delay until December or January. So, yeah, I'm happy to continue to serve. I'm going to be out for just a little bit. So, if you want, it depends on our timeline, I guess, and when we're going to make more appointments. We've done a lot of them already, and we were just waiting to do them all as a whole together.
Thoughts from the City Clerk? Oh, Councilmember Woods.
I'm more than happy to step up or more than happy to substitute if either of you feel either burned out or overwhelmed or you're not available and we're trying to fill these positions. So I just want to put that out there right away. I agree with Councilmember Middleton that, on the Measure J and the Planning Commission and the Historic Site Preservation Board, we probably want to do that as a whole council still, just because of the reasons that she had mentioned. But I just want to put out there that I'm more than willing to step up.
Great. Thank you.
And I'm also willing to step in and help out if we need to during the course of the year. And I like the idea of Councilmember Garner and Mayor Pro Tem Holstage finishing a full year if, to the extent that's possible.
So, City Clerk, does that work? So it sounds like Mayor Pro Tem Holstage and Councilmember Garner will finish out this year. And if one of them is unavailable, one of the rest of us can fill in. And it sounded like Councilmember Woods and Councilmember Middleton volunteered to do next year, right?
Yes, we did.
So thank you. That sounds really good to me.
And Mr. Mayor, just one final question. So since the city council will be interviewing for those 3 commissions, did you want to have any kind of a screening process, or did you want to go ahead and interview everyone that has applied?
I think it may make sense to have the interview committee or 2 other people do a screening and maybe recommend, 5 or 6 people, somewhere in there, 3 to 6 people max to interview, because otherwise, it becomes hard to schedule those when you have 30 people. And, we can work with staff and the chair on what skill sets they're looking for, what, life experiences, et cetera. I think that would make sense. Councilmember Woods.
Just as a reminder, we said that we would do some matrix on our boards and commissions. One was we changed it to the evening, so I just want to make sure we're still on track to see if that made a difference, either in the diversity and or the people participating. I just want to make sure that at some point in the next year that we're actually looking at those matrix.
Yeah, and actually it'll be interesting to see doing them by Zoom, if that has made it more likely, less likely people can participate, and how moving forward we might combine, technology and in person for people who can't be there in person. So it'll be interesting to look at that as well.
Yeah, I found doing them on Zoom, we've had, I think, a more robust candidate pool, although we have to consider there's people who can't do Zoom and the effects of that, but we've had people who are parenting with babies in the room and, being able to do their interview and things like that, which is important. We want to make sure to interview and consider those folks. So I found that using Zoom has been really helpful.
Great. Good feedback. Thank you. So nothing else? You don't need a motion on this, correct?
No, sir. I have direction. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next item is 5D, amendment to the Palm Springs International Airport Concession Lease Agreement for Paradise Shops, LLC. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. What's before you this evening is to approve an agreement with Paradise, our concessionaire at the airport. As you know, when COVID occurred, our main concessionaire basically had ended the contract that they have with the city and with other airports. They just weren't able to continue as a going concern as a business. That being said, we're in the process of going forward with requests for proposals, going out for bids for new concessionaires. The time had come for us to do that. We were looking at new types of product, expanded concessions. However, once COVID occurred, we realized that was not going to be possible. So once our HMS, our main concessionaire left the scene, we asked the second concessionaire we had to step up. They did so, and they were able to provide a certain level of grab-and-go kinds of amenities for our travelers. We knew that was not going to sustain us over the long term. We've asked them to give us a proposal to expand back to a full service, which they have done. Included in this generally is they are going to have about a $500,000 investment, a capital investment in the current facilities that we have, and then they will be able to offer pretty much a full service range of concessions for our traveling public. That being said, the benefit to us in this regard is they will not charge the airport anything for this capital investment. It will be theirs. In return, they will have this contract for 3 seasons, peak seasons, or 2 years. And what that means is that at the end of that second year period, we will be going out for an RFP for full concessions as we were pre-COVID. In that regard, we think at least in this 2-year window, we will be back to some sort of normalcy and be able to get bids that we had hoped we would originally have received. In the bottom line to this is we believe is worth doing because the company is putting the investment in on their own. They are taking the chance, and we will have the next 2 years of a wide range of concessions for our traveling public. This is particularly important because, obviously, of our new service that we have at the airport. This is something that staff believes we must go forward to at this point to make sure that we have the appropriate concessions as we move into the upcoming season. That being said, Council, our Airport Director, Ulysses Aguirre, is here to answer any questions, and I believe also the concessionaire is available on the phone if you have any specific questions of that company. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
I think staff did a really good job in getting us this bid, and I'm supportive of it. We are going to get 2 years, and that is definitely going to be an upgrade in the experience that passengers at our airport are going to have. So I support this.
Thank you. You know, Councilmember Woods.
I support it as well. I think it's imperative that we have somebody up and running, especially now that we're expanding the airline service to Palm Springs International Airport, PSP. And I think it's important that when people come into our airport, they have a good experience, so they'll want to return. And part of that experience is having vendors available for food and drink as they pass through, especially if they've been on long flights. So I would be supportive as well.
Thank you. 2 things for the city manager. Can we make sure that we're, I know this will last until I think April 30th of 2023, but that a year ahead we're getting the RFP out at least for 18 months, whatever it is, so we don't fall behind on that. Maybe just calendar it somewhere for your predecessor.
Yes, absolutely.
And the second thing, I have one thing for Ulysses, if he can come up, if he's in the chambers.
Yeah, yes, he is. He's making his way to the podium.
Thank you. Are you, sir?
Yes, sir.
I just wanted, since you were here, to take a moment to publicly thank you for your amazing work in the new air service, especially Southwest. I know you've been working on that for a long time, and just wanted to thank you publicly for the reason we need new concessions in the airport. You've really done a great job, and we all really appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to make sure that you understand that this has been a team effort, and there's been a lot of people, even before I got here, who have been working on marketing the airport, and it's a team effort that delivered this for the community.
Great. Absolutely. Thank you very much.
And Mayor, I would like to note Ulysses has been doing a great job as our interim director, and we appreciate the work specifically on this concessions. We knew it was a lot of work to put together, a lot of moving parts, and to deliver it to you today. So thank you, Ulysses.
Great. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Holsted.
Thank you. I appreciate everyone's work. I know we're wrapping up, but I just had a question about local businesses. So could you highlight the impact or the, how we're using local businesses? Because I know the mayor and I on the Business for Attention subcommittee, we heard a lot about including local businesses in our airport. I think the city council agrees that makes airports unique, and Palm Springs is very unique, and we want those brands in there too. So could you talk a little bit about if local businesses are included here, and then the plan for the RFP?
Yeah, Parody's shops did go out and did try to talk with a couple of different local businesses. Some of them right now pretty much expressed the challenge that they're having in this COVID environment, and they are very focused on their current establishments and didn't want to take a chance necessarily of expanding beyond anything that they can sustain over the long run. With that, Parody's was able to find a coffee supplier for their new PSP coffee house. It is Coachella Valley Coffee out of Coachella Valley, down in Coachella. So that is the one entity, small business locally here in the Valley, who will be participating with Parody's.
Thank you. Better than Starbucks.
Anything else? If not, is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Middleton, second by Councilmember Garner.
Councilmember Middleton.
Aye.
Councilmember Garner.
Yes.
Councilmember Woods.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Holstech.
Yes.
And Mayor Kors.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Next item is public comment on non-agenda items. This time is set aside for members of the public to address the City Council on items of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city. Although City Council values your comments pursuant to the Brown Act, we generally cannot take any action on items not listed on the agenda. 2 minutes will be assigned to each speaker. Tonight, the City Clerk will be contacting speakers by telephone. City Clerk, if you could begin, please.
Hello, Michael Fleming.
Yes.
Hi, this is the Palm Springs City Council. You're live with the City Council, and you have 2 minutes to provide your comments.
Thank you. My name is Michael Fleming. I live on North Vista Drive in Little Tuscany, and I've submitted a longer version of these comments in writing to each of you and to the city clerk. I'm speaking today in opposition to Council Agenda Item 1K that was on the consent calendar, and it was pulled, and so I want to thank you for that. But the underlying fact that you once again are trying to sell Boulders and Crescendo remains a cause of great concern. Boulders and Crescendo are not surplus properties. The 75 acres are precisely what makes Palm Springs the magical place that it is. To state something as surplus suggests that you think we have too much of it. Do you really think we have too much open space? Do you really believe we are underdeveloped? The question today is why the rush to engage a real estate firm whose only goal is to sell these lands to the highest bidder without regard to the needs and the wants of the community, and in direct contradiction to the promises that you made to safeguard these lands. What role is there for us, your constituents, those who want to protect these lands from the ravages of unneeded or unwanted development, to continue to contribute to climate change and the degradation of critical habitat? So I would propose that when you take this up again, you expeditiously appoint a panel of community members to work with you and staff help develop alternatives to the sale of these pristine lands, and that includes financial and political support from government and nonprofit entities known for advocacy and stewardship of natural resources. I would volunteer. I would enlist others in this collaborative. The panel would report back their findings with regard to potential alternatives to the sale and development of these lands. Once these lands are developed, we can never get back the open space they provide. I count a number of you as friends and colleagues, and I'm relying on your good judgment and your well-honed leadership skills to figure out another way. And all of us will work with you to provide a positive outcome, and I very much look forward to that.
Thank you, and we'll disconnect. Hello, Nikki. Hello, Nikki McLaughlin.
Hello.
Yes, you're live with the Palm Springs City Council, and you have 2 minutes to provide your comments.
Good evening, Council. Nikki McLaughlin. I'm representing Friends of Palm Springs Mountains and understand that you've received a lot of written comment for former item 1K. So I'll make this short and sweet. The front page of today's Desert Sun included a statement from Governor Newsom calling for 30% of the state's land to be protected in the name of conservation by 2030. The governor's comments are so relevant to our current concerns and certainly reflects Friends' intent regarding preservation of open space. Quote, "We're here with purpose and intention, and that is to build on California's legacy of open space, to build on California's legacy of environmental stewardship, and to build on California's leadership as it relates to biodiversity." Wow, what a goal. How about working together and let's lead the way? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, and we'll disconnect.
Thank you.
Jack Lugo, you're live with the Palm Springs City Council, and you have 2 minutes to provide your comments.
So I was actually calling about the Ruth Hardy Park hoops being up because I noticed that the Ruth Hardy Park hoops were not up, but the Barristo Parks were up. And so I've been having to go to the Barristo Park, and there's like a big homeless community there, and there's drug usage there, and fights and stuff. So I was just wondering why the Barristo Park hoops could be up, but the Ruth Hardy Parks can't, especially when Ruth Hardy Park is a much safer place.
Okay, we've received your comments. The City Council doesn't go into a discussion, so we'll take your comments and they'll go into consideration.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. One second. Mr. Brian Ray, you're live with the Palm Springs City Council, and you have 2 minutes to provide your comments.
Hello, thank you so much for hearing me. My name is Brian Ray. I'm a fairly new resident in Palm Springs, more specifically in Little Tuscany. Just a little quick background. I've been playing with Paul McCartney for 18 years now. But I've been coming to Palm Springs since I was a kid, born and raised in Los Angeles, and I've always loved Palm Springs and Desert Hot Springs for its solitude and its quiet, and it has always provided the best getaway possible from my otherwise noisy world of playing music loudly for people all over the world. So that brings me to my lovely house up in Little Tuscany. I'm on North Vista Drive, and I live between the two affected zones that are now the subject of some debate between the Boulders and Crescendo. I love my home. I put a lot of money into it, and I love the area. I added on, I remodeled a 1958 Claude Hicks home up there. And I just want to let you know that I would be so opposed to the disruption of the peace and the quiet that we've all come to know and love in the area. And disrupting this natural alluvial cone, this wash that's been there for millions of years, by moving tons of boulders and building homes or apartments in the area would, in my opinion, devalue the lifestyle that I came down there and purchased to be a part of. I love your city. I'm very much a part of it. And I'm very much opposed to these two properties, these two areas being developed.
Mr. Ray, 2 minutes has passed,
Okay.
so we'll disconnect now.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Hello, Paul Marquez. You're live with the Palm Springs City Council, and you have 2 minutes to provide your comments.
Oh, great, thank you. I just wanted to bring up a point here in that prior to the COVID, when they had the Thursday night craft fairs on Palm Canyon, and they closed down the streets, I was with a couple business partners, and we had a very nice dinner. And then we started to walk the boulevard, and we kind of noticed some kind of strange people hanging out, which we'd never kind of noticed before. But they were a group of guys that looked like they were trying to make trouble. In fact, one approached us and was trying to get us to fight with him, and it looked like he was on drugs. Anyway, so I was looking for police around there to talk to them about these people that we had seen, and there was nobody to be found. And I was wondering, why could we not have police on bikes during those Thursday night fairs when they start up again? That was one of my concerns. And the other concern I wanted to bring up was that I live on Gem Circle here up of Rocket Club, and we noticed, my neighbors and I noticed that it looks like they're grading the hillside for more homes. And we were kind of talking about that and thought it would be a tragedy to start putting homes up on that hill. So at nighttime, what we do is we see is, resident lights on that mountain of ours. So those are two of my concerns that we had.
Okay, thank you, and we'll disconnect now.
Thank you.
Thanks. Richard Schaefer, you're live with the Palm Springs City Council, and you have 2 minutes to provide your comments.
I just want to say that this, what do they call it now? With the grasses. My mind is going off here. Do they scalp the lawn? I think that should be banned. Too many people in this area that have lung conditions like I do, and every year it just gets worse. I know they're doing something about it in the city park, but these golf courses, it needs to stop. Too many people are suffering, and nobody seems to be doing anything about it. I started with this back when Odin was mayor. So I just want to know what someone's going to do about it and why it continues to happen.
Mr. Schaefer, could you repeat again what it is that you want banned?
The scalping.
Okay. Does that conclude your comments?
Pretty much. That's what I want to do.
Okay.
About.
Well, thank you. The City Council's received your comments, and they'll take that into consideration. Thank you. Mr. Ned Barker, you're live with the Palm Springs City Council, and you have 2 minutes to provide your comments.
Thank you very much, and thank you, council members, for all of your hard work on our behalf. I'm Ned Barker, a Little Tuscany homeowner and a member of our neighborhood board. My partner, Danielle Schneider, and I are permanent full-time residents since 2016. I write and speak this evening to express concern over the potential loss of our neighborhood's natural open spaces, specifically boulders and crescendo. The real value of boulders and crescendo to a tourist destination known for its amazing scenic lands, it can't be calculated. It's never ending. Their value to Palm Springs can't be calculated and won't end. But their value as a short-term budget enhancement will vanish in a year or two following the sale, if not sooner. This evening, I believe that you killed the opportunity of a small convenience store in a poor location to expand into a significant upgrade across the street, one that covers a blighted span of concrete, because you believe it isn't appropriate for the city's primary gateway. That's fine. Yet you will cede to a developer to cover our beloved alluvial fan with upscale, ticky-tacky, even more visible on that same gateway. As for boulders, a last vestige of the historic Chino Canyon Trail, it's the only other non-developed multi-acre tract in Little Tuscany. It's only about 850 feet from the border of the Santa Rosa and San Jacinto Mountains National Monument.
Mr.
And
Barker?
it's even close. Yes.
Your time has elapsed.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for listening. I appreciate it. Bye.
Thank you, and we'll disconnect. Grayson Cowper, you're live with the Palm Springs City Council, and you have 2 minutes to provide your comments.
Hi, my name is Grayson. I am a Palm Springs, Coachella Valley native. I grew up skateboarding my whole life. I grew up going to the Coachella Valley skate park, attending all the skate parks in the surrounding Coachella Valley area. But the only park that I haven't been able to go to is the Palm Springs Skate Park, which, I mean, I get because there's a lot of, with all the COVID-19 stuff and all the things that are going on right now, it's just a lot. But I think there's a manageable way to, like, manage how many people are going in at a time, body temperature checks, whatever COVID guidelines you need to follow just to open up the park. Because the swim center next door is open, and they're still doing their thing like they did before, from what I've heard. And the skate park still isn't open after all these months and after all this time with everything reopening and shutting down. But the skate park still hasn't been tended to. It's almost like city kind of neglected it. So just, I think for the sake of the community and whatever guidelines we have to follow, I think it'd be best if we could open up the skate park back for whatever we can. Like whatever guidelines we need to follow, whatever we need to do. We just need to open up the skate park so the community can go back and just use it a couple times a week just so we can get our fix, you know? Thank you guys for hearing me out. I don't know how much time I have left, but...
Thank you, and we'll disconnect now.
Cool, thank you so much.
Jacqueline Avilés, you're live with the Palm Springs City Council, and you have 2 minutes to provide your comments.
Great, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and get started with a brief story. Donna, a mother of 6, 3 of whom attend Julius Corsini Elementary.
Jacqueline, I'm having a hard time hearing you. I'm going to call you right back.
Okay. Hello, this is Jacqueline.
Yes, I've reset your time, and you have 2 minutes.
Great, thank you so much. Donna, a mother of 6, 3 of whom attend Julius Corsini Elementary, has experienced some difficulty this school year in supporting her students through online learning. Once her students joined our after-school program in collaboration with the school day staff, our dedicated professionals available to assist with the school day learning, she has definitely seen some improvement in them completing school day assignments and overall engagement in the school day online classes. This school year, programs like Think Together were given special permission by the state to offer schools like Donna's students the resources they needed most. From online learning support to homework help, physical activity, Think Together is here partnering with school sites to engage students and families. My name is Jacqueline Avilés, and I'm the General Manager here at Think Together, California's leading nonprofit provider of after-school, expanded learning, and school improvement programs. I am calling in this evening to invite you and your constituents to our virtual Lights On After School event on October 22nd at 3 p.m., where we will celebrate how we are partnering with schools and communities to rise to this moment. Lights On After School is a national event that creates an annual opportunity to highlight and showcase the essential work that after school and expanded learning programs play in communities like Palm Springs. We're excited to feature some key stakeholders from our community here, and our mission is to secure a sustainable statewide funding solution for after school programs and ensure that children of Palm Springs and all over California have access to high quality and well-funded after school programs. A formal invitation has also been sent via email to the city clerk, so we do hope that we get to see you in our Lights On virtual event. Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll disconnect. Larry Kramer, you're live with the Palm Springs City Council, and you have 2 minutes to provide your comments.
Yeah, my name is Larry Kramer. I'm a 25-year business owner and businessman in the city of Palm Springs. And what the city has done is in relation to blocking off the street, the last 2 blocks where all the restaurants are in Palm Springs to create more outdoor dining, is certainly a detrimental thing as far as most businesses are concerned. There's been a couple of businesses that have benefited, a couple of restaurants, but most all of the retail shops in our shopping center and the streets across the street, they're the ones that are suffering because people drive down the street now and they see a barricade closed off with K-rails. They have to be turned out. They realize it looks like the construction zone. We have monitored it. We see people walk down to the barricades they turn around and walk back the other way because the street is vacant. And it's at nighttime, maybe a couple of restaurants have outdoor dining. It's created a problem in the area that with no policing and no traffic, which is one of the things that we rely on as a business front and center on Palm Canyon Drive, there's no traffic there, and it looks like it's a dead part of town. And with no cars and no one else going down there, it's created a haven for the homeless. And in the last 2-3 weeks, there has been call after call, not just from our end of the block to the police department for problems and stuff with the homeless. And it's something that the intent was to create a promenade and make it kind of a European feeling. There is a much better way to do it. There's a way that would have been beneficial, not only to the business owners, all of the business owners, not just a couple of restaurants. And it would have been a beautiful thing for the town to get behind and do it. But there was no conversation, no notice given to any of the owners, myself, and many of the businesses in my center and the centers across the street. And I think that this thing could be solved very easily, but certainly at this point here, it is detrimental to all the businesses and financially.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
2 minutes has elapsed.
Okay.
Thank you.
You bet.
Kristen Eldar, you're live with the Palm Springs City Council, and you have 2 minutes to provide your comments.
Hi, thank you very much for taking my call. My name is Kristen Eldar, and I own a business on Palm Canyon. It's called the Gold Store, South Palm Canyon, where the street closure has taken place. I'm also raising 2 young children at home, which has its challenges in itself. And the current street closure has been a real stressor for me and other businesses. And just the fact that I'll give you an example today. I had a customer come all the way in from Corona, and she got to the store. She was winded, and she said, I found it very, very difficult to get to your store. I couldn't, as I drove into town, I saw roadblocks, and I thought, oh my, the street's closed. She had to circle around and try to figure out where my store was. And she said, with all the things she had been going on with the drive over, that was just an extra stressor for her. And she was an elderly woman. So I just ask you all to consider making a new decision and thinking about all the aspects that are going on around this. It's not just one thing. It's many things that can domino as the season and the holidays approach. I'd like you to thank you all for taking my call and listening to my comments. But I really wanted to have my voice heard because, waking up at 3:30 in the morning and worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow, as I had to sign a lease.
Ms. Eldar?
Yes.
I'm sorry, but the 2 minutes has elapsed.
Okay, well, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Janice Smith, you're live with the Palm Springs City Council, and you have 2 minutes to provide your comments.
Okay. All right. You ready for me to speak?
Yes.
All right. It seems that, it was only a few months ago that I read in the Desert Sun that John Wesley was giving back to the Boulders and the Crescendo properties to the people of Palm Springs. This property, I think it was originally as open space, and it was to stay open space. And then I was so happy to read that this was such great news. And then the settlement of the 2 properties, once it was settled, it was going to be with GRIT. The properties was being settled with GRIT with the city. And our mayor Jeff Coors and council promised to protect at that time these properties, to keep them open space for all, including the wildlife to enjoy as well as the people. Well, here we go again. This time it's not Steve Fournier, Westman, and the rest, but you, Jeff Cord, and the council, who claimed that you have to sell the property to the developers. This is exactly what you and your council promised not to do, and not so long ago. You and your council promised to protect this land settlement for the open space. You're doing exactly what you were supposed to be protecting this land from. This is the wrong thing to do. How distrustful you are choosing to be with this property. How disloyal you are becoming to the citizens of Palm Springs, and how disgusting when so many trusted you with their property as a city. Well, it's true. I guess all government starts at the local level, and perhaps that's why we, as people, are, and we are now, in the problems we are having now. I'm hearing such an echo with my voice, it's hard to speak.
Ms. Smith, 2 minutes has elapsed.
Okay, hopefully, I will say hopefully, they'll all realize that this property is precious asset to Palm Springs. Once it's gone forever. My heart, as well as many others' heart, hopes that you'll have a change of your heart and hope you will do the right thing. So many of us are so disappointed.
Thank you, Ms. Smith, and we'll disconnect now.
Thank you.
Ken Sheeran, you're live with the Palm Springs City Council, and you have 2 minutes to provide your comments.
Is this regarding the street closure?
Yes.
Good. I'm of an invested interest in RCPM Group, 120 West Arenas, the closure of Palm Canyon, parking and safety. I understand that your closure is for restaurants only. It looks like that way, to help restaurants. You had arenas open, then you reclosed it. You effectively cut off my parking and my livelihood. You closed arenas both ways. I think the idea what we should do here to benefit all people is let's use the Revel restaurant as a Revel. So you have indoor dining, outdoor dining, sidewalk dining, and street dining is what you're trying to do, which is commendable. I think what you ought to do is eliminate the street dining, let all the people with permits do sidewalk dining, and open up the street for traffic. Also open up the plaza. Now, serves several purposes, people. My building has 25 people who are employed. That's the parking lot. You've red painted my curb on both sides of the street. There's no parking. There's no street. There's only, out of the 60 or 70 merchants, there's 4 restaurants that have anything on the street. And one of them is a cigar bar. Now you should walk down there and look. You have Lulu's, Los Consuelos outside. You have nothing from Marinas to Baristo. Go the other way, from the plaza back to Taquez. There's one restaurant, Revel. The other one is El Patron. Tentatore's closed. Peabody's closed. Kaiser Grill's closed. LG.
Mr. Sheeran?
Yes, sir.
2 minutes has elapsed.
You're kidding me.
Nope.
Open up the street for safety.
We're going to need to disconnect now.
You're kidding me.
No, sir. 2 minutes has elapsed. That is the same time that we give to all speakers.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Michelle Gonzalez, you're live with the Palm Springs City Council, and you have 2 minutes to provide your comments.
All right. Hi, my name is Michelle Gonzalez. I own Ulala and Shulala downtown. And I wanted to bring up the road closure and how it's been affecting us. Our business has definitely been down, and I know, of course, that the virus has to do with that. But given the fact that only 2 or 3 restaurants are participating in the closure, it's really, I feel like it brings more harm than good. Every single day, I have to look outside across from Palm Canyon, and right next to the Village Pub, literally right across the street from me, there's homeless people that are conjugating every single day with all of their belongings, hanging out, smoking together. I've called the cops twice, two different times. Families are walking by. Those homeless people were never there before the road closure. It's a huge eyesore, and there is every single morning there's trash all around the front of my store that most likely is from those homeless people across the street. Sometimes they try to come into the store and we have to kick them out. I just had to call the cops yesterday because one of the guys from across the street was harassing 2 young girls that looked about 16 on a bench near us. And the other thing that is really frustrating is I don't feel like the road closure is really safe. The second day that the closure was put into effect, my store was broken into. And it was in the morning, in broad daylight at 5:45 in the morning. And I don't think that would have happened had the roads been open.
Ms. Gonzalez, your
Yes.
2 minutes has elapsed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Robert Ross, you're live with the Palm Springs City Council, and you have 2 minutes to provide your comments.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Robert Ross. I represent one of the merchants who has been essentially put out of business as a result of the blocking of arenas at Palm Canyon. What I have understood and learned is that essentially the closure of Palm Canyon from the north all the way to the south wouldn't be so bad if Arenas was permitted to be a through street just as Tequit's Canyon is. What the effect of closing the Arenas Drive on both sides of Palm Canyon is to isolate all of the merchants that thrive on through traffic. I understand that there are some 17 restaurants that were that the city council wanted to protect by allowing outdoor dining, and in order to do that, they elected to close the street. Well, by doing that, the city council made a preferential, and I might say arbitrary and capricious election of what businesses the city would permit supporting or support, in essence, by the closure of these streets, to the prejudice of every other single business that relies on foot or vehicular traffic on those streets. I am advised that there already is one lawsuit that's been filed against the city. And while it's not a threat to the city, I want to express that the arbitrary and capricious election to benefit one group of commercial operators to the detriment of another is, I believe, outside the police powers of the city. And
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
2 minutes has elapsed.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you, and we'll disconnect. Mr. Mayor and City Council, I want to note for the record that we have attempted calling Liz Lomas, Chanel Doyle, Brian Drain, Bonnie Reese, and Nyan Wells 3 times each with no response.
Thank you for making that effort, and thank you for everyone who called in for public comment. We very much appreciate it. And for folks who watch this, you can always email us as well. For folks who didn't make comment by phone or wanted to make comment on anything tonight but didn't have the opportunity and are now watching this on video. Next item is City Council and City Manager request for upcoming agenda development. City Manager.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I would just note that at the meeting on October 22nd, that agenda is rather full at this point. We're going to have 2 public hearings, appeals from the Planning Commission, also cannabis distance waiver. So that will be a public hearing. So that will be the bulk of the meeting, and then there will be obviously consent items and a few others as well. So that's on the 22nd of October. And then if there's any additions that you might want to add, please, we're ready to take some direction. Thank you.
Okay. Any council member requests or other comments? Councilmember Middleton.
I simply want to commend and give great greetings to our colleague, Mayor Pro Tem Christy Holstage, who by the time we meet again will be a new mother. And her work over the course of this year has been absolutely incredible, and her commitment to reaching out to everyone in the city through her pregnancy and all of the issues that we've had this year has been remarkable, and we all wish her nothing but the very, very best of success. And young Aiden is very lucky in his parents.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yes. And just in time for him to be counted in the census.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I am getting a phone call from one of our public comments, if you don't mind if we can take that. Brian Drain, you're live with the Palm Springs City Council, and you have 2 minutes to provide your comments.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Brian Drain, and I have a business on South Palm Canyon. I'm a medical provider, and since the closure of the street, I've had patients receiving cancer treatments, not able to come in for their treatments due to the street closure. A lot of my population is an older generation, and they haven't been able to. There's 2 patients specifically that haven't been able to navigate the street closure or the parking, and so they in turn just had left the area. Another problem that I've been running into, being able to provide medical care with the street closure, is a delay in shipments of medicines and supplies. Several times UPS had thought that the office was closed. A lot of my medicines are supposed to arrive by 10:30 in the morning, and they haven't been able to meet that demand. And there's been a few times that patients haven't received their treatment because the deliveries have been delayed. Also, there's an increasing problem with homeless now that the street's closed. I'm right across the street from a vacant building called, I think it's the 420 Bank. The police have been there twice, I think today, and it is a threat to the area, and I'm greatly concerned about it for the safety of the visitors and the people walking on the streets, patients coming to the office, and the area has definitely deteriorated with the street closure.
Mr. Drain?
Yes.
Your 2 minutes has elapsed.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, public comment is closed now.
Great. Thank you for adding that person in. Anyone else have any comments or requests? Councilmember Garner.
Just regarding the parks and things that are available, if it is possible for us to make sure that the equipment is up, especially with the basketball hoops at all of our neighborhood parks, I think that would be great, especially if there's inconsistencies. That's possible.
Thank you. Okay. No one else? We will adjourn to the next regular city council meeting, which will be held on Thursday, October 22nd, 2020 at 5:30 p.m. Councilmember Middleton.
Mr. Mayor, could we adjourn in honor of Gil Vega and Leslie Serrani?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. We will do so. Good night, everyone.